You're listening to a priority transmission.
All team, give it everything you got!
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in.
Never get between a Mandalorian and a weapons package.
This is the way.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
She's as important as he is.
With your hosts, Trisha Barr and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome, Yub Cubs, to Fangirls Going Rogue Priority Transmission. I am one of your hosts, Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland, and with me, as always, is Trisha Barr from Fangirl Blog. Hey, Trisha.
Hey, long time no talk to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We're going to have lots of episodes out this week. Well, this episode is about Tales of the Underworld, which is premiering on Disney Plus on May the 4th. 2025, and we're excited. This is the latest in the Tales anthology of animation that's created by Dave Filoni. These are basically stories about a particular character that he's had in his head, and then producer Carrie Beck just throws money at him to bring them to life. So we've had Tales of the Jedi, which was very exciting. It followed Ahsoka and Count Dooku. Yeah. And then we had Tales of the Empire, which follows
Barriss, Ophi.
That's right.
And Morgan Elsbeth.
Thank you. And now we have Tales of the Underworld, which is following in their footsteps. It will take two characters and expand their story with 3 episodes of about 15 minutes each. So Tales of the Underworld will follow Cad Bane and Asajj Ventress, who we recently saw pop up in The Bad Batch. So, Trisha, what are your initial thoughts on this series, Tales of the Underworld, which we have both seen?
Okay, so I'm not a dark side girl. We've known that for a long time on Fangirls Going Rogue. Teresa Delgado was always our dark sider. Yes. But Asajj Ventress is my girl. And I don't know how, but somehow I feel like I've willed her back to come to a little bit of the light side. Like, we always thought that like, at the closing of, what was that, season 5 of the Clone Wars, and she actually helped Ahsoka when she was running from the Jedi, and you felt like maybe there's a different path for her. And then they laid that out in Dark Disciple, except then she maybe died at the end of that, and then she showed up in the Bad Batch. You were like, maybe she didn't die. And now you get to see what happened in Tales of the Underworld.
Yeah, you get to see the answer to that question. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed Asajj Ventress's story. It felt very much like in that animation vibe. It gave me the vibe of Kanan and Ezra in Rebels, where you had that kind of reluctant guide that Asajj has to be, and mentor, and the banter that you sort of have with Kanan and Ezra, except it's, Asajj and this young character that she's bringing along. And so, yeah, I would recommend it. And, as these stories always do, these tales of, they're working with similar themes. So we get a matching story with Cad Bane. And I honestly, if I didn't know the story about Cad, it wouldn't have mattered. But I know some people will really enjoy this story and how it's laid out. Very Western vibe. And, that part of Star Wars, have always had Western kind of vibes to Star Wars and parts of it. I feel like Cad Bane was ruined for me in writing the Ultimate Star Wars book. I had mostly the Clone Wars was my area of expertise, and I had to do like 100 word. They gave you a word count summary of Cad Bane, and he's this really cool bounty hunter until he has to start losing, because he can't keep winning against the characters, Anakin and Ahsoka, as they get stronger and stronger. So he starts to kind of turn into like a losing chump as it goes along in the Clone Wars. So I was like, there's not really anything cool when you try to wrap his whole story up in 100 words. And at some point then he lost it for me, and I've never been able to really get back into that character. I know he's got a cool hat, but it's so weird.
How funny. Okay. All right. So you weren't so enamored with the Cad Bane episodes. Got it. Yeah. But that makes sense.
The Asajj stuff. And, you don't have to watch it, all of it. If a character doesn't interest you, you just pick the 3 that do interest you. But there are themes that they're working with that align. So, watching the whole thing, it's an hour and a half total for all of the episodes.
Yeah, it's very quick. Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, unlike previous tales, they jumped around in time for each character. Like Ahsoka, you got her birth, and then you got like in the middle of the Clone Wars, and then you got later after the Revenge of the Sith. So those jumped around a lot in time. But these episodes really were mostly laid out one storyline that was serialized, almost as if it was like one episode of TV that was broken into 3 parts. Yeah. And like you, I really enjoyed Ventress's story and the fact that they tied it to Dark Disciple. Because, I'm a book fan. I love the books. And, so many fans were asking, how is Ventress back when she turned up in Bad Batch? And, well, within the first, 2 minutes, question answered. Done. Witches can do anything, right?
Exactly.
I loved it. Now, as for the Cad Bane arc, I think I enjoyed it a little more than you because I loved that they leaned into the Western theme, especially with the music. So the Kiners were back to do the music. It was Kevin Kiner and his 2 kids, and they had this great theme for Cad Bane. This like very Western, and you can go to the credits of any of the Cad Bane episodes to hear the full theme playing out, but it is like throughout the entire episodes. It's weaved in them, and it's fun because in the credits you hear the full orchestra play the theme, but then if you keep watching the credits, they give that theme to a lone grungy kind of guitar, and it just gives this intimate feel, very Western, like Cad Bane sitting on a porch with his hat playing his guitar with his boots, right? I loved it. So I really like that they leaned into that, and his whole, I think it was 2 or 3 times there was like a Western shootout, which is, I know.
I mean, they were like just, I mean, it leans really hard to Western. Yes. It's to the point where even the characters that when they're named, they just have like Deputy is a character's name, or Tall Man. Like they don't even have names. They're just sort of like Western archetypes in the character credits. So it was like, okay, well, you learn things. I'm going to say you learn things about Cad Bane. You're like, well, why does he wear the hat? Like, those type of things. And why is he the way he is? Okay.
That was a very Indiana Jones moment, by the way.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, what episode 1 of the Cad Bane's arc has a lot of parallels to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
I mean, there's Star Wars. It's Matt Michnovetz who worked on the Clone Wars, who wrote these, and some of the directors that have worked on the Bad Batch and the Clone Wars. So it's people who are very familiar. But I thought they had. Oh, we got to see Latz Ravi in the 2nd episode of the Asajj arc. She's a character from the Clone Wars that I always liked, played by Clare Grant.
Oh, cool!
And that was fun to see her come back and get to act in Star Wars. We got a chance to talk to the actress Nika Futterman, who's been playing Asajj Ventress since the Clone Wars movie. Some of you may not remember all the way back that far, but it's been a long time.
Was that 2008, right?
Yeah. So, but she's really fun to talk to, and she's also a singer. And I got to play a little bit with that question. You guys asked a great question too for Skywalking, but you guys have a listen and enjoy.
Yeah, I think Skywalking question is up first, and Trisha, you're last.
We bookended this interview.
We did, and it's real fun. So yeah, enjoy.
Yep. Hey, Nika, I am Richard. This is Sarah. We are from Skywalking Through Neverland.
Hi there.
Hi. Well, we are so excited. Asajj Ventress's voice is so iconic. So we really want to know, what do you do physically or mentally to prep for her voice? And any specific as possible would be great.
I was like, specifically nothing. No, I say that she just has I think will always just come through the universe into my being. I mean, back when she first started, when we first started together, when we teamed up together, me and Asajj, I had this kind of vision of her, and I thought of her sort of as this kind of like powerful, regal human, even though she never was actually regal or a queen or anything. She's more of a witch. She did run the planet for a little while after her Jedi dad was killed, and then she kind of ran off all of the big bad guys off of the rat attack or whatever the island, the planet was. But besides that, you know, she's never been a queen, but I felt as though she had this sort of like regal sensibility. And then now that she's kind of like gone through life and gone through all of her more hardships and a whole lifelong filled story of difficulty, I kind of, when doing, you know, starting off the Bad Batch and doing this, Dave and I kind of thought like maybe we'd tone back a little less of the regal and do more of the sort of like, you know, road weary, life weary woman of the street, you know. And so I've kind of like made her a little bit just more like a little more tough and a little less regal. But I don't really, I never have, and I know I should, and especially now at this age, this my life, that I find that I have a lot less stamina than I used to have. I could do video games all day long. I could do 1 billion characters, and my range was like crazy. But the older I've gotten, you know, the more things affect me. Like I was just in Vegas last week and it was dry and my throat was like, ugh. So I know there are things that I should be doing to physically get ready for what I do. Tea. I occasionally do tea and throat coat. Hot water with lemon. But that's only because I've aged a bit and no longer have the capabilities to stretch it like I used to.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
So my pleasure.
So I wanted to ask maybe an obvious question, but obviously Ventress has that amazing guest appearance in The Bad Batch, and everyone was wondering how she got there from where we left off in Dark Disciple. So when you were approached to do a Ventress-centric show like this, was there a particular element, a particular reason that made you want to continue playing the character?
Well, if you were Ventress and they asked you to do it again, wouldn't you say yes? I mean, duh. She's amazing, and I loved her from the beginning, and I was bummed when her story got cut short, when they stopped the Clone Wars and I wasn't in the last season. I just felt like she had so many more stories to have told about her, that we had just started scratching the surface of who and what she was and why her whole life had made her who she was and what that could mean for her future. And so I was bummed when you know, we ended and she'd become a bounty hunter, and it was just the beginning of that story. And I thought, whoa, this is going to be so amazing because we're going to get to see all these sides of her and see where she goes. So I kind of was hoping that at some point in the future, I was going to have an opportunity to kind of, I don't want to say finish because I never want her to end, but I you know, to continue on with what her stories could be. So I'm super psyched. I was completely shocked like everybody else. I was like, I didn't know if I or she would ever come back as her. And so of course I jumped at the opportunity.
Hi, Nika. I'm Alex from Star Wars Expalain. Thank you for taking some time to
Alex.
talk to us. Asajj Ventress shares a lot of similarities with Darth Maul because they were both Sith apprentices. They were cast aside by their masters. Then they were thought to be dead, but they returned to life. Maul never really changed his outlook on life. He stuck with the dark side the whole time. So how do you think Asajj's path will differ from Maul's after her near-death experience?
Well, you know, they're both Dathomir. They have a lot of the same genetics. So I think that there's that similarity there. I think the fact that she's female and rather witchy, that she can tap into other parts of herself. I don't know his story as well as I know hers. I know that I relate to both of, you know, like I think they relate to each other in a way, but at the same time, I feel like her story is, I don't want to say more complicated. I just want to say that she's done the flip-flop a lot. And, but I think that even though, you know, he was willing to try to kill her or, you know, I mean, they must be related in some way because they're both Dathomirian and, so there's always going to be that connection. But I feel like because she has been part of the Force, been part of the Jedi, been part of the dark side, she's been everything. And so I think that she's been able, and she's female. So there's this, you know, at some point I feel like there has to be some kind of self-reflection that may be harder for him because he's a dude.
Yeah, send him to therapy, please.
You know, like he needs to go to therapy. I think also, you know, we discover that she finds love. That'll soften up anyone at some point. We never thought she'd get there. And she's been such a lone wolf, and really so is he. And so I think they share that in common. But I think he still connects more with violence, where I feel like her path is heading her to a place where she's got to step back and go, how do I want to live the rest of my existence, you know? And I think that as a female of any creature, whether it be human, humanoid, animal, whatever, eventually every woman finds themselves to a feeling, whether you're a mother or not, there's this part of her that is connecting with maybe being okay with occasionally being a protector, you know, instead of just a, you know, killer, you know, which is really easy for her. I don't know if she ever found it fun, but I think that it was just natural, just like it is for him. Did I go off did I answer that?
Oh, no, that was a great answer.
Good. Okay.
Hi, Nika. Thanks so much for taking the time today. I'm Charlotte from Skytalkers. I was wondering, when preparing for Tales of the Underworld, are there any keywords or themes that you were given to prepare for this chapter of Ventress's story?
No.
Great.
Because it was like, you know, I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's not fair, because if you've ever been in a session with Dave, he will talk for like an hour and a half before you ever record anything, and, you know, just go really deep. I just meant that preparing before I did the show, there wasn't anything. You know, I think that we talked a lot about what it would have been, what this portion of time where we don't see her, where we haven't seen her, what would have happened in that time period? What would she have become? What, as just a maturing, what would happen to her in having all of the pain and experience and everything that she had? What would she now be this many years later. And we talked a lot about, that stuff. So, but, at the session. So I didn't really have time to prepare because I don't even know if there is any preparing. When you become a character, in anything that you're doing as an actor person, she had been me and I'd been her for so long, even though there had been this thing that she was already a part of me. So I feel like I don't really have to think anything. We could talk about it a lot, but I already feel her. And I did from the beginning of when I did her. And I think maybe that's why they let me portray her, because I was like, this is how I feel she would be. And then as we went along the whole Clone Wars journey, we became more and more, we became one. And so that, preparing, if you become that character, then you just feel that character. And that's how I feel with her. And I feel like, as I was going through the Clone Wars, I was getting to know her more. And then I just felt her and still feel her. Yeah.
And Nika, thanks for taking the time to chat with us. William Devereux from the Canon podcast. Tales of the Jedi, or Tales series, tend to spend a bit of time with each character's past, their present and future. Without spoiling anything, which of the 3 episodes were you most excited to explore and beforehand? And afterward, which ones turned out to be your favorite ultimately?
Well, I still haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Keeping you in suspense.
I can't tell you which is my favorite yet. And so I can say the whole experience was incredible. Also, just because, I get to work with a new fun buddy who, you will meet, and who, what I loved about it was I kind of felt like here's an opportunity for Asajj to, protect and care in a way that she hasn't yet. And so it's like it's like a buddy movie, and it's without giving away stuff. I think that she's been running and running and running through her life, and now she must be forced to connect with this part of her that is that see, I keep wanting to say motherly because that's kind of how I felt when I was doing it. But then that makes her, seem way softer than she is. Let's just say she doesn't like the fact that she has to learn how to care. Maybe it makes her uncomfortable. But I enjoy that tug and pull with her. I think that's what makes her the most interesting of characters. And so I think that I love this exploration into this place where anytime she's put into an uncomfortable situation, which is basically this little short series, is very uncomfortable for her because she's got to tap into the softness in herself, let's just say. And I enjoyed that tug and pull.
Thanks for taking the time to do this, and Bryan from the Full of Sith podcast. You have had a storied career doing lots of characters over lots of voice acting projects, and I'm wondering what it is about Asajj that makes her unique and special to you personally. Like, what is it that you connect with Asajj about that makes her special and worth coming back to?
Well, I think anybody given the opportunity to be in the Star Wars universe would jump at it. That's number one, is that I get to work with like incredible other actors. And of course, that I lucked out. I scored big when I started with Dave back, so many years ago, to work with someone who's such a genius, but also such an incredible nerd himself, who's so into it, just like everybody else. You know what I mean? That it means that it's his whole life and his whole heart. So to work with somebody of that caliber, of that care, of that devotion is unlike any of the projects that I've done in my whatever 30-something year career, whatever. The other thing is this, is that like I play a lot of very different characters in my other shows, whether it's kids or little creatures or funny or silly or whatever. A lot of stuff. That's what I've done a lot of in my career. I guess besides video games, it's been a rare moment where I've gotten to explore this character that is this multi-layered and who comes from a whole universe where the stories are, infinite. Everything else I do, although with the exception of I do the show Loud House, which is a kid show, and the character couldn't be more opposite. Luna Loud, she's this rocker chick who's a young teenager, and we've been doing that for 10 years, or 10 seasons, I should say. But besides that, pretty much every show that I've ever done maybe lasts like 2 seasons, 3 seasons at most. So you never get to explore in a way that you get to explore in this realm, where and also in a world in which everybody involved is so into it. And I think that's the most special thing about being part of this world, and that, there's nothing like it. And the fandom, there's nothing I've ever done in my whole career where people are as into it as this. And you guys are here, so like there's something crazy about it that people literally make this their whole lives. So to be a part of that is like, it's like if someone says to you, hello, I'm going to give you this and make you part of history, and you go, yeah baby, I'll take it. That's what feels so, like I'm just talking about it, it gives me chills. And the fact that they have now brought her back, I'm like, oh, thank you, because I wasn't done yet. So yeah.
Hi, Trisha Barr from Fangirls Going Rogue podcast.
Hey.
Hi, I wanted to bring it back around to you saying that Ventress maybe had some royal inspiration. If Ventress were a Disney princess, what would be her want song? What does she want?
Her want song? She definitely doesn't want to build a snowman. That's, okay. What would be her want song? Gosh, it all, ever since the whole, Dark Disciple, that really messed me up because I would have said something completely different. But now she fell in love. And so, I'd say, give me a dark love. Give me a deep, dark, dangerous love. Okay. Before that, I would say it would have been more, maybe a little bit more, I'm going to get my revenge, more revenge, my revenge. Okay, yeah, so, yeah, that's the problem with someone so complicated. I still think she likes a little revenge. I mean, she definitely likes a little revenge. But now there's sweet, syrupy love dangling in the background.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Great answers.
Yep.
All right, well, that ends this episode of Fangirls Going Rogue. And in between shows, you can visit us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com. We are also on Blue Sky. And anywhere else you find us, we are at FG Going Rogue. Trisha is at Fangirl Cantina, and I am at Jedi Tink.
You can send us an email, contact at fangirlsgoingrogue.com.
And you can also find us on Facebook. Just search Fangirls Going Rogue. You can like the page or request to join the group. Just please answer those questions that pop up, or we can't let you in.
Please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. We need your reviews so more people can find us.
So, until next time, do-do-do-do-do.
Yub.
Yub.
This site is not affiliated in any way with Lucasfilm Limited LLC, the Walt Disney Company, or any of their affiliates or subsidiaries.
Yep.